Out there, in the cold gulch of space, whispers creep in on a broken wire. Not the song of celestial bodies, the hum of distant stars, but a coded itch, a static thrumming against the skull. We've cracked the alien cipher, or so they say. But the words that bleed through, like the light of a dead star, not meant for human ears. They speak of angles not on our compass, of geometries that warp your mind, and dimensions where madness sits on the throne. This isn't a message of first contact. It's a howl from the deepest pit. And the only thing we can understand is the cold dread clawing its way in.
Way signal. On April 28, 2020, two ground-based radio telescopes detected an intense pulse of radio waves within the Milky Way. It was the first time a fast radio blast, aka FRB, had ever been detected within our galaxy, and despite only lasting a millisecond, it was almost impossible to miss. Located just 30,000 light years away from Earth, the FRB was picked up by the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, CHIME, and the Survey for Transient Astronomical Radio Emission 2, STARE-2. Now CHIME wasn't even looking in the right direction, and we still saw it loud and clear in our peripheral vision, said Kiyoshi Masui, assistant professor of physics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. STARE-2 also saw it, and it's only a set of a few radio antennae literally made out of cake pans. April 2020's discovery was also notable for being the most energetic radio blast that astronomers had ever recorded in the Milky Way. But what made it most exciting is that scientists are now closer to determining the origin of FRBs. They've been billions of light years away, making them a lot harder to study, but now there's one that's close by. Number 9. The WOW signal. In 1977, astronomer Jerry Ehman was researching at The Ohio State University when an incredible and unexplainable radio signal was detected using the school's Big Ear telescope. In those days, information was run through what was called an IBM 1130 mainframe computer before being printed on paper and then studied by hand. Upon reviewing the findings, Jerry came across something he had never seen before. There in the vertical column was the sequence 6EQUJ5. Jerry was amazed and immediately circled the sequence and wrote "WOW" right beside it. Hence the name. The signal they picked up had come from nearly 220 million light years away, and there was no explanation as to how or why a radio signal could be detected from that distance. It immediately became a sensation in both the science community and the rest of the world, and was used to support the search for alien life in the universe. Jerry himself says he's convinced that it certainly has the potential to be the first signal from extraterrestrial intelligence. Number 8. Space music. Now, sound needs a medium to travel, and thus it cannot be heard in the vacuum of space, yet astronauts have returned to Earth with fascinating tales of hearing odd noises while in space, which is terrifying, by the way. During the Apollo 10 mission, which was a test run for sending the first men to the moon, astronauts were carrying various equipment with them, which was being tested to withstand space as they were deemed essential for the moon landing. While circling the moon, the astronauts on the vessel heard a certain whistling sort of music. Now, the music lasted for almost an hour and creeped the living daylights out of the astronauts. One of them described the sound as sort of otherworldly music. On returning to Earth, the astronauts struggled for a while on whether or not to tell NASA and the rest of the world about what they experienced. Now later, astronaut Michael Collins, who was a part of the Apollo 11 mission with Aldrin and Armstrong, revealed hearing similar music while on the moon's surface. Now NASA believed them and made the recording public that astronauts reported hearing in 1969 while on the far side of the moon, out of radio contact within Earth. Now NASA says the sounds could not have been alien music, but I think I have to disagree. An engineer from the US Space Agency said that the noises likely came from interference caused by radios that were close to each other in the lunar module and the command module, but I'd like to believe that it was aliens that made that noise. Number 7. Noise in the stratosphere. In 2023, strange sounds that were recorded high in the Earth's atmosphere had scientists baffled. A solar-powered balloon mission detected a repeating infrasound noise in the stratosphere, and scientists don't know what's making it. A solar-powered balloon mission launched by researchers from Sandia National Laboratories carried a microphone to a region of Earth's atmosphere found 31 miles above the planet called the Stratosphere. The region is relatively calm and free of storms, turbulence, and commercial air traffic, meaning microphones in this layer of the atmosphere can eavesdrop on the sounds of our planet, both natural and human-made. However, the microphone in this particular study also heard strange sounds that repeated a few times per hour. Their source has yet to be identified. The sounds were recorded in the infrasound range, meaning they were at frequencies of 20 Hz and lower, well below the range of the human ear. There are mysterious infrasound signals that occur a few times per hour on some flights, but the source of these is completely unknown, Daniel Bowen of Sandia National Laboratories said in a statement. Number 6. Pisces and Aries radio signal. A radio signal was received 3 times from the same region of space in February 2003. Astronomers with the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence SETI project used a massive telescope in Puerto Rico to re-examine 200 sections of the sky which had all previously yielded unexplained radio signals. Now these signals had all disappeared except for one which had become stronger. The signal is widely thought to be the best candidate yet for alien contact and comes from a spot between the constellations Pisces and Aries, where there are no obvious stars or planets. Curiously, the signal is at one of the frequencies that hydrogen, the most common element, absorbs and emits energy. Some astronomers believe that this is a very likely frequency at which aliens wishing to be noticed would transmit. Nevertheless, there is a good chance that the signal is from a never seen before natural phenomenon, but I'd like to think that it's aliens. Number 5. Mysterious signals from a distant galaxy. The Chime Observatory found 13 FRBs, and among it was a very unusual repeating signal coming from the same source about 1.5 billion light years away. Such an event has only been reported once before by a different telescope. Knowing there is another suggests that there could be more out there, said Ingrid Stairs, an astrophysicist from the University of British Columbia. And with more repeaters and more sources available for study, we may be able to understand these cosmic puzzles, where they're from and what causes them. The telescope detected 13 of the radio bursts almost immediately, including the repeater. The research has now been published in the journal Nature, and we have discovered a second repeater and its properties are very similar to the first repeater. This tells us more about the properties of repeaters as a population, said Saharsh Tenkur of McGill University, Canada. Number 4. Radio signal heartbeat. Astronomers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have picked up on repetitive radio signals from a galaxy billions of light years away from Earth. Scientists have not been able to pinpoint the exact location of the radio waves yet, but the signals have been occurring steadily and last up to 3 seconds. Most fast radio bursts only last a few milliseconds. Now within this window, the team detected the burst of radio waves that repeat every 0.2 seconds in a clear periodic pattern similar to a beating heart, MIT said in a statement. On December 21, 2019, researchers at the Dominant Radio Astrophysical Observatory in British Columbia, Canada, picked up a signal of a potential FRB, according to the MIT statement. Not only was it very long, lasting about 3 seconds, but there were periodic peaks that were remarkably precise, emitting every fraction of a second, boom boom boom, like a heartbeat, said Danielle Michelli, a postdoctoral researcher in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Calvi Institute for Astrophysics and Space Research. This is the first time the signal itself is periodic. Data on the bursts, including their frequency and how they change based on where the source is located in proximity to Earth, could help researchers determine what speed the universe is expanding. Number 3. Bright quick blasts of radio waves. Repeating bursts of energy seem to be coming from an ancient group of stars called the Glober Cluster, which is among the last places astronomers expected to find them. Often originating billions of light years away, the extremely bright, extremely brief bursts of radio waves, known as the fast radio bursts or FRBs, have defied explanation since they were first spotted in 2007. Based on observations to date, scientists surmise that the bursts are powered by young, short-lived cosmic objects. But a fast radio burst discovered has now been traced to a Glober cluster about 11.7 million light years away, near the neighboring spiral galaxy M81. Now to put it in perspective, finding this burst among a cluster of aging stars is kinda like finding a smartphone embedded in Stonehenge. The observation doesn't make sense. Brian Gensler, an astronomer at the University of Toronto, said this is definitely not a place where fast radio bursts are expected to live. Scientists are struggling to explain the cosmic anchorism. They're also moving forward to the conclusion that maybe, as with many other celestial phenomena, there is multiple ways to cook up a fast radio burst. Number 2. bursts of energy. While mapping radio waves across the universe, astronomers found a celestial object releasing giant bursts of energy unlike anything they've ever seen before. The spinning object, spotted in March 2018, beamed out radiation 3 times per hour. In these moments, it became the brightest source of radio waves viewable from Earth, acting like a celestial lighthouse. A study on the discovery was published in the journal Nature, and lead study author Natasha Hurley-Walker, an astrophysicist at the Curtin University node of the International Center for Radio Astronomy and Research, said this object was appearing and disappearing over a few hours during her observations. That was completely unexpected. It was kinda spooky for an astronomer because there's nothing known in the sky that does that, and it's really quite close to us, about 4,000 light years away. It's in our galactic backyard. Now, Curtin University student Tyrone O'Doherty made the unusual discovery while using the Murchison Wide Field Array, aka the MWA telescope, in the outback of Western Australia. Tyrone said, "It's exciting that the source I identified last year has turned out to be such a peculiar object. The MWA's wide field of view and extreme sensitivity are perfect for surveying the entire sky and detecting the unexpected." And coming in at number 1 is the farthest radio signal from a galaxy. Astronomers using the radio telescope in India have captured the most distant ever radio signal from a galaxy. Now, the signal came from a galaxy called SDSS J0826 plus 5630 that exists 8.8 billion light years away. That essentially means that it exists closer to the Big Bang than any other galaxy previously detected using radio astronomy. A galaxy emits different kinds of radio signals, said Arnab Chakraborty, a postdoctoral researcher who studies cosmology at the Department of Physics at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. Until now, it's only been possible to capture this particular signal from a galaxy nearby, limiting our knowledge to those galaxies closer to Earth. The researchers from both Montreal and India used the giant meter wave radio telescope in Pune, India to capture the signal at a specific wavelength called the 21 centimeter line. The signal from the galaxy was emitted when the universe was only 4.9 billion years old, but because the universe is expanding, it took 8.8 billion years to reach the telescope. This breakthrough proves that it's possible to observe faraway galaxies using existing low-frequency radio telescopes. This will help us understand the composition of galaxies at much greater distances from Earth, said Arnab.
Custody. So this former Air Force intelligence officer spilled the beans at a congressional hearing about how the US government has been keeping a lid on some of this wild alien stuff. Apparently, there's a lot more to UFOs than just rumors. At this congressional hearing, there were these 3 folks, David Grush, David Fravor, and Ryan Graves, all of whom used to work in the military. Fravor and Graves claimed that they saw these weird flying objects multiple times, like almost as if it was some kind of normal routine for them. And then there's Commander Ryan Grush, who didn't see any himself, but he talked about this top secret government program supposedly dealing with alien tech dating way back. Like, we're talking about stuff recovered from the 1930s, but however, the Pentagon's all, nope, never happened. The hearing made it clear that even Congress themselves are being left out of the loop. Some senators want a review board to release all classified UFO records. It's pretty intense, especially since people are thinking that this could be all a big deal for national security. Graves said it right himself, we deserve to know what's happening in our skies. At number 9 is the Interstellar base on Mars. Are we already in touch with aliens? A former head of Israel's space program is suggesting that humans have been mingling with aliens for years. Haim Eshed, a reputable figure with a long track record in space endeavors, dropped a bombshell about secretive interactions between the US and extraterrestrial beings. This 87-year-old Israeli insider spilled the beans on deals struck between the USA and aliens. Supposedly, they're teaming up to dig into the mysteries of the universe. He even went on to say that Elon Musk's whole life mission of colonizing Mars is all kind of for nothing because according to him, we've already done it. Yeah. Apparently, we already have a secret base hidden underground on Mars where Americans and aliens are working side by side. Pretty wild to think about the implications if this is true. Imagine humans rubbing shoulders with creatures beyond our planet, like not even in a Hollywood movie, but in real life. What would they look like? How do they communicate? What amazing things could we learn from them? It's like diving into a science fiction story, except according to Eshed, this is our reality. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification notification bell. At number 8 are the 8 interstellar messages. 8 mysterious signals from outer space recently caught the attention of scientists. These signals might be from aliens. Scientists published their findings in a fancy science journal called Nature Astronomy. Now, why are these signals such a big deal? Well, scientists always keep an eye out for signals from outer space because they might be aliens trying to talk to us. These signals could show that there's someone out there using technology to try and communicate with us. But hold up, how do we know that these signals are from aliens? It's a good question. You see, these alien signals are different from regular human signals, or just pulsars, for example. Humans use wide-range signals for things like phones and Wi-Fi, but these alien signals, they're narrow and way different. That's what makes them special, and possibly from alien technology. Now, how did scientists discover these signals? Well, they used a clever AI program with a cool telescope. This AI checked 812 star systems from data collected by a satellite called Hippocros. And guess what? It found 8 signals that seemed promising that could possibly be from aliens. However, when scientists looked again, the signals were gone all of a sudden. Why? Nobody knows for sure. Maybe the aliens are being shy or just not that into chatting with us. But hey, it's still exciting because this means that there's somebody out there trying to reach us just from far, far away. At number 7 is NASA's golden record. Yeah, I'm talking about the Voyager golden records, basically those groovy golden discs that got launched into space in 1977. For those of you who don't know, the NASA Voyager is the first man-made object to ever leave our solar system. And so scientists thought, hey, if aliens ever find this thing, maybe we should leave some clues about how to find us. Carl Sagan, this big shot astrophysicist, and his team put a bunch of cool stuff on these records, like sounds of Earth, music, greetings in different languages, and they even managed to encode some pictures into it. But here's the kicker. How would aliens even know what to do with this freaking disc? Like, imagine just stumbling upon a weird disc, gold with symbols all over it, and having no clue how to play it or even what it is in the first place. Just pretty confusing. So basically, we can't exactly use stuff like English or like numbers or anything relatively human in general to try and communicate with these aliens because their point of reference might be completely different from ours. So we had to work really hard to come up with universal symbols in order to essentially create a language that will allow the aliens to crack the code. So on the golden record is a diagram which is supposed to depict a hydrogen atom. Now, essentially what's going on in the diagram is that it's depicting the electron of the hydrogen atom flipping its spin. Now, every element produces a certain wavelength when their electron flips their spin, and it's unique to each element. So if aliens can figure that out, now have a number that they can use for reference for the entire thing. And so there's also that cool star-looking map that's called a pulsar map. Essentially, the ends of the lines are supposed to depict pulsar stars. So they're essentially cosmic lighthouses, these stars that spin around really fast thanks to their magnetic poles and emit a beam of light. Each pulsar has its own unique frequency at the way it spins, and so using our hydrogen wavelength from earlier, aliens will be able to decipher which stars those are exactly, and thus be able to pinpoint where our planet is, which is all really convoluted and really cool. So cool, in fact, that I have it tattooed on my back. Anyways, these records also have some uranium stuff on their covers. Not dangerous though. They're meant to act as a clock telling aliens when exactly the records were sent out. So these records aren't just saying hi to aliens, they're also like a time capsule, which is pretty wild. But seriously, decoding messages to aliens is a whole other level of coolness. At number 6 is the Olympic broadcast. In 1974, humans shot a message to space from a massive telescope in Puerto Rico, but nobody actually heard it. We've been accidentally sending stuff like old TV shows into space for a while, which sounds pretty cool, but is kind of concerning. It might give the wrong first impression if our alien neighbors catch our TV shows. Now, some TV signals aren't nearly strong enough to escape our planet. While some are weak, while others might go a little bit stronger with their signal, but eventually they degrade over time. Even if they reached deep space, they'd be pretty quiet, like dropping a pebble in the Pacific Ocean and expecting somebody in Japan to notice the ripple from California. So even if aliens picked up our stuff, they might not understand it as images or sound. They would just know it's tech made by somebody, but that's about it. Now, in the Olympics, during the reign leading to World War II, the famous dictator with the mustache delivered a speech, and that broadcast was so loud and powerful, it might actually be the very first thing that aliens discover about us. Yeah, imagine if we met them like, hey, we got a message from you. Yeah, that was from our worst guy like ever. At number 5 is the Interstellar broken telephone. Scientists recently sent a signal out to space aiming to chat with potential extraterrestrial pals. They even made a list of stars likely to get the message within the next 100 years. And guess what? They're hoping to hear it back by 2029. These smart folks did some big math to figure out how far their messages will travel and when any replies might show up if they do. They shared their cool calculations in a science journal called Publications of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. But the tricky part is that when we send these kind of radio signals out to space, they get weaker and harder to catch as they zoom along. So to make sure our messages have more oomph, scientists used NASA's super-powered deep space network. Some earlier attempts at this space chatting happened in the past, as back in 2002, we pinged a dead star about 27 light years away. And in the 80s, we messaged 2 stars expecting a reply by 2030. But not everybody thinks that this is a good idea. Some scientists worry that if aliens respond, we might not even notice. We only spread about one millionth of the Milky Way with our signals. That's like trying to yell in a cosmic empty stadium. And number 4 is the beacon in the galaxy. We've been trying to talk to potential aliens for a while now. It's like sending a message in bottomless space. The first attempt was in 1974 with the Arecibo message. Fast forward to now, and scientists are still at it trying to figure out the best way to say hi to whoever might be out there. This new message, called the beacon in the galaxy, is like a crash course in everything that humans know. Math, chemistry, bio, you name it. But the tricky part is reminiscent of the golden record from earlier. How do you write a message that an alien can understand? We can't use our languages or even numbers or symbols because, let's face it, aliens aren't gonna know our ABCs or 1, 2, 3s. So we use a kind of code, like a computer language called binary. It's like all ones and zeros, kind of like how computers talk. But even some really smart people on Earth had trouble decoding this binary message. Imagine aliens trying to figure it out. They might not even know what binary is. These messages also have drawings and diagrams about us and our place in the universe. But aliens might not be able to even see things the way we do, so even if they do get our message, they might not understand what we're trying to show them. And number 3 is the Arecibo message. This message was humanity's very first big attempt to send a message to aliens. It's basically a letter hoping aliens would find it. This all went down in 74 when scientists sent a super strong signal into space from Puerto Rico. It was like a big hello to any possible aliens in a star cluster called M13, super far away from us, about 21,000 light years far. The message they sent was pretty simple. It had patterns and information about us, Earth, our solar system, but again, it was in binary made of 1s and 0s. Now, it's unlikely we will ever get a response to this message in particular, but hey, at least we tried. At number 2 is the WOW signal. Wow. In 1977, a radio signal called the WOW signal made scientists go, wow. It was caught by a telescope at Ohio State University and lasted for 72 seconds. But after that, it disappeared, never to be heard again. The astronomer who discovered it was so amazed, he circled the signal on the datasheet and wrote wow next to it, and hence its name. Now, the signal didn't come with a message or anything. It was just a strong burst of radio waves. Scientists have been trying to find its source for ages. One idea might be it comes from a star in the Sagittarius constellation, but experts say we can't jump to conclusions. And at number 1 is interspecies communication. What do whale experts and alien hunters have in common? A lot more than you'd think, actually. This group of scientists got together and worked with their goal being to chat with whales. They did this experiment with a humpback whale named Twain. It wasn't like a full-on chat about life in the ocean, but it was still amazing. They used a special whale sound, kind of like a hello, to see if whales would reply. And then Twain showed up. For about 20 minutes, they kept making the sound, and Twain responded each time. Now, what's cool is that she even matched the gaps between their sounds. Like if they waited 10 seconds, she waited 2 before replying. It's a real conversation. Why is this important? Well, scientists think if we can understand how animals talk to us, we might be able to figure out how aliens could communicate with us as well. Imagine if whales taught us how to chat with extraterrestrials. It's pretty cool.
Sightings. Who better to trust about what's going on in space than people who have actually been to space before? That's right, numerous astronauts over the years have reported seeing things that they think might be UFOs. Buzz Aldrin was one of the astronauts aboard the Apollo 11, and during their journey, they all reported seeing flying objects. Of course, space debris exists, and it could just be some metal junk that was adrift in space. But then, why did they report that the objects appeared to be following them? When they thought that it might have just been a detached part of the rocket that was flying alongside them, they were informed that this piece was actually 6,000 1,000 miles away from them, and they definitely wouldn't have been able to see it from that far away. He also said that when they brought it up, they were briefed to not talk about what they had seen out in space. Well, the government can try all they want to cover things up, but eventually word always gets out. Number 9. Paintings. Now let's go well beyond spaceships and astronauts and move into the far more distant past, because alien sightings certainly aren't a new thing and seem to have been around for centuries. One piece of evidence that people often cite is a painting titled The Madonna with Saint Giovannino. It was painted in the 15th century by Dominic Ghirlandaio and appears to depict a UFO flying around in the background, its shape matching up with people's frequent depictions of flying saucers as being alien spacecrafts. There also appear to be beams of light coming out from the bottom of the ship, and this has led people to believe that it is unmistakably an alien craft and not just something else placed up in the sky. And if you take a look at it, it does seem hard to believe that it could be anything else, as what other dark object would make sense to be floating in the sky like that? If you have any ideas, let me know what else you think it might be. Number 8. The Tic Tac UFO. Back in 2004 on the coast of California, a US Navy pilot named David Fravor reported seeing something strange. In fact, he reported seeing something that was, quote, something not from this earth. They were about 60 to 100 miles off the coast of California, and he was leading a strike fighter squadron through some exercises when the incident occurred. He said that he saw a tic-tac shaped vessel flying through the air at incredible speeds, but it wasn't just him who saw it. It was also reported by another flight crew who actually followed after the craft and even filmed it. While the footage was originally kept classified, it's now been made available to the public. The case was then published by the New York Times after the Pentagon acknowledged its Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, which is actually the Pentagon's own 21st century study of UFO sightings. Number 7. Wow! Exclamation point. The Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, otherwise known as SETI, is a group that, well, searches for extraterrestrial intelligence. In 1977, a large radio telescope outside of Ohio was scanning the skies on behalf of SETI when they picked up a signal that lasted for 72 seconds. The printouts of readings often included low numbers, which was typically just the background noise that the telescope picked up. But then a scientist noticed that there was a sudden string of letters as well as larger numbers. The letters went all the way up to U, which indicated a signal 30 times stronger than the typical background noise. Upon seeing these consecutive letters, which would represent a very strong signal and something potentially alien, he circled them and wrote the word wow followed by an exclamation point in bright red pen. To this day, we've never really seen anything else like it, and the extraordinary readout has yet to ever be duplicated. Number 6. Viking Mars. Now let's get into some more science-y factual stuff. When people think of aliens, the term that might often come to mind is Martians, being attributed specifically to aliens that reside on the planet of Mars. NASA has sent a lot of things out there, and one expedition was referred to as Viking, them sending out little robots to take readings of the planet. One test that they performed was done on the soil, mixing soil with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients to see if they would produce radioactive methane gas, this being a chemical sign of life on other planets. And it did, the test coming back with a positive result and finding organic molecules. But NASA just brushed it off, I guess, because they said that the other experiments didn't end up with the same results, so they just said it was a false positive. But one of the original scientists and others who have analyzed the data stand by their discovery, saying that the other experiments had just been ill-equipped for performing the tests and finding the same results. Number 5. Martian Fossil. Let's hear from NASA again, this event taking place in 1996 when they announced that they had found a Martian fossil. They said that they had found fossilized microbes within a lump of Martian rock, a meteorite that is theorized to have been blasted off the planet around 15 million years ago before finally winding up in Antarctica, where it was discovered 12 years prior in 1984. They analyzed it a lot, of course, and found organic molecules as well as small bits of the mineral known as magnetite, which can sometimes be found in Earth bacteria. Researchers also said that under an electron microscope they were able to see traces of nanobacteria. So it seems like evidence is continuing to stack up that other planets are, or used to be, capable of sustaining life. And with a universe as infinitely large as ours, it's hard to say that it's impossible that life on other planets could ever exist. Number 4. The Super Hornet. Let's now take a look at another piece of evidence that came out following the Pentagon's acknowledgement of their Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. This took place back in 2015 on the East Coast and is another video of evidence discovered by the US Navy, this time by a FA-18 Super Hornet, a strike fighter that reaches speeds of up to 2,000 kilometers an hour. That's pretty fast. The pilots see the unidentified object moving at incredibly high speeds over the water and they struggle to keep up but are finally able to get a lock on it. When they do, they start cheering and one even says, "What the F is that thing?" They continue to follow it and seem to be unable to figure out what it possibly could be. This is another piece of evidence that had to go through a declassification process before it could be released to the public. Makes you wonder what other video footage and potential signs of alien life the government might be hiding from us in a filing cabinet labeled classified. Number 3. Chicago O'Hare. In November 2006 in Chicago, Illinois, airline staff and pilots alike were shocked by what they had witnessed. Multiple people reported seeing what they described as a flying saucer in the air. It was an overcast day and the UFO seemed to be just hovering over the Chicago O'Hare airport terminal. They then described how it seemed to shoot up into the air incredibly quickly, so fast that it punched a hole through the cloud cover above it. The FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration, described it as simply being a strange weather phenomenon and they wouldn't be investigating it, so don't worry about it. Of course, that's what they want us to think. But so many people at once reporting seeing a flying saucer shooting through the clouds doesn't really sound like a weather phenomenon to me. One flight traffic control official said, "To fly 7 million light years to O'Hare and then have to turn around and go home because your gate was occupied is simply unacceptable." Number 2. SETI readings. Now let's go back to the SETI project again. If you've somehow already forgotten by now, that refers to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Back in 2003, they were using a large telescope in Puerto Rico to re-examine around 200 sections of the sky that had all previously shown unexplained radio signals. All of the signals had disappeared except for one, which had actually become stronger. It came from a spot between the constellations Pisces and Aries where there aren't any known stars or planets. The signal was emitting the frequency for hydrogen, the most common element which both absorbs and emits energy. Some astronomers believing that this is the most likely element aliens might use to send a message to us for this reason. The signal from this spot in space has now been recorded a total of 3 times, and has left many people wondering if it is truly a signal coming from aliens. Number 1. The Phoenix Lights. On March 13th in 1997, an event took place that was referred to as Lights over Phoenix, or the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. On this day, hundreds of witnesses reported seeing otherworldly lights across Arizona, Nevada, and northern Mexico. There were 2 main events, the first being a giant V-shaped aircraft that had 5 lights on it, maybe thrusters, though it apparently didn't make any sound. Then later that night, there were a series of red and orange lights in the sky that didn't appear to move at all. And while air traffic control employees could see the lights in the sky, they couldn't see them on their radars. The governor of the state of Arizona at the time said, "I'm a pilot and I know just about every machine that flies. It was bigger than anything I've ever seen. It remains a great mystery." And it really does remain a mystery. To this day, nobody seems to have any real or solid explanation for what the large spacecraft and the lights might have been. It was said that it was a military flare drop, but this came after their original statement that they had had no planes in the air, and even a recreation of the event didn't line up with what people had seen, flares flickering and burning out after only a few seconds. I have an explanation though. It was aliens.
Next up is the 2030 Traveler. A time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. Now this story I'm telling you is from 2017, so just keep that in mind. He turned up on the radio show Kyle and Jackie O and told them that he traveled multiple times in the past but was stuck in the present day. I usually went from like early 1999 to like 2018 around here, but when I got stuck I was in the year 2017, he explained. So how does he do it? I have many body implications and things all over myself, and I step in this giant dome and these things fire up, and basically a large electronic weight basically pushes you through time. It feels like you got electrocuted, he said. Now one of the most shocking things was that he claims that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, "We've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now, the government has has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future, we actually are in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them, he said. Now, of course, his claims have attracted skepticism, and in response, he agreed to take a lie detector test on camera. He listed events he said will happen in the next 12 years, and then the interviewer asked if he was telling the truth, and the machine records that he is. I mean, I guess this guy is legit. Up next is the chain of events. TikTok user Eno Alarkic, who is a time traveler from 2671, has gained thousands of followers on the app by posting warnings about future events. In one video, Eno wrote, "Attention, I am a time traveler from the year 2671, and I'm here to warn you about these 5 dates to come. November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope discovers a planet that is a mirrored version of Earth. January 1st, 2023, a plane flying over the Bermuda Triangle goes missing. March 3rd, 2023, a message is received all around the world that seems to have come from the ocean. May 15th, 2023, a 750 mega tsunami hits the California coast, mainly San Francisco. And June 18th, 2023, 7 people mysteriously fall from the sky, but there was nothing flying in that area." Now, how believable is this? Well, I don't really think any of this happened, but just the thoughts of these events even happening is chilling. Moving on to the alien invasion. On March 23, 2023, a time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials had arrived on Earth and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. The champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, they said. The so-called time traveler warned of a very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win. They claim that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders, and these 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Thankfully though, they add, "I want you all to know that you are safe, and I'm trying to warn you of what's to come." Now, last year we were having all those weird UFO sightings. Could those have been related to this incident they're talking about? I don't know, maybe. Now we have the dangers of technology. A time traveler claims to have come back from the future to warn us all of an impending apocalypse, humans versus technology. They said there was one huge computer controlling everything, which is not controlled by a person, but makes all demands and decisions itself. Apparently the computer had the power to destroy the entire planet at once. So did this person really just confirm that we live in a simulation? I think so. Now, speaking to the camera, the time traveler who had his voice and identity changed to protect himself said, "I was not born here, I was born in 3258 on December 1st in the European Empire." Now, the time traveler explained that he was drafted into the army at 18 and wore a uniform made of gold and saw everything that happened in 3260. He said there were not only robots, they were very clever and can take the decisions communicated with each other. He said the war began on September 21st, 33,000 when he was 42, and that there has never been such a war on the planet. It was fateful and tragic for all people all over the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie guys, I feel like this is plausible and makes me scared, but I won't be alive in 33,000, so I don't really have to worry. Now let's talk about the alien war. A time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed the world will end in 2038 during a war with an alien species that has apparently already invaded Earth. A mysterious social media user who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed to know how the world is going to end. The user claims that aliens have come to Earth to take over the planet, but the war apparently won't start until 2024. Now, guys, let me remind you that we are in 2024 right now. They said the first war will begin in early 2024 and will end in 2038 with the Earth being destroyed. Captioning the clip, they added, "Another species of aliens save us, but not the planet." The first being that everyone would dream of an alien invasion by a species called the Zels on February 28th before the actual invasion, which was supposedly meant to take place on March 2nd. Now, people took to the comments to debate whether the alleged warnings could come true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Catastrophic events are next. A time traveler from the year 3036 has left us some scary messages about the future. In a series of videos posted on his channel, the mysterious traveler claims the world's population population in 3036 will reach record levels, with domestic animals such as cats and dogs considered exotic. Now, he also warned of something called the Big Blackout. The Big Blackout, if I'm not mistaken, happens in December 2052. Basically, everything goes dark for an upward of 5 years. The internet, the power, it all gets disconnected on account of what's called the terrors, but many speculate otherwise. Anyway, 5 years, it's turmoil, riots, you name it, it's pretty much the worst of times. It takes them upwards to 20 years to get the power back online, and even then it's absolute chaos. Now, he also added, "You're as free as you're ever gonna get right now," he said, staring directly back into the camera. "These are considered the last days of freedom. Your kids won't even see it, so suck it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you got it pretty good, you just don't know it." Yeah, that is scary. I do not like that. Then we have the end of humanity. A TikToker that goes by Javier claims to be a time traveler. Javier's first video, posted in February 2021, depicts scenes throughout the city of Valencia, Spain that look relatively normal, except for one fact: the city appears to be completely void of people. In the video, which has been viewed over 7 million times, he claims to be a time traveler from the year 2027. He says that by then humanity will have gone extinct. A translation of the text within the video describes the eerie scene. Nobody in shopping malls, nobody on the streets. In a video posted soon after, he adds, "I keep trying to find human life, I'm starting to lose hope." Now, what happens to humans, he doesn't say, but 2027 isn't too far away, and we have to prevent whatever he claims will happen. On to the time travel program. A disguised woman who has introduced herself as Mia claims to have been recruited into a secret US time travel program before she finished high school. The alleged time traveler said she was offered good money to travel nearly 600 years into the future, where the world is completely different to how we know it today. Allegedly, the world faces the irreparable consequences of climate change, the rise of artificial intelligence, and aliens settling on Earth. Now, this seems realistic. Now, by the year 2600, the concept of independent nations will cease to exist, and humans will be ruled over by a world government run by AI. At the same time, humans will supposedly live in 11 megacities spread across the globe, where they will coexist with smart robots and aliens. The time traveler said, "I visited the year 2600, and it's very hard to explain to you what it was like because it's so different from the world we live in today. I saw robots, aliens, and human beings all living together in peace." And she added that, "I talked to people from this time and they told me how the world had changed. They said that the red sky was caused by global warming and that they all had microchips in them that made them smarter than their brains normally were. They said countries no longer existed and that the whole world was governed by AI." Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Next up, we have Trevor the Time Traveler. Self-proclaimed Trevor the Time Traveler is from the year 2049, and he claims to know when World War III will break out. He claims to be visiting from over 2 decades into our future in search of his pal Roger, aka Kronos. But while on his so-called mission, he stopped to make videos warning people of what's to come, with claims about catastrophic events from aliens to natural disasters. However, among these warnings, Trevor claimed to know when World War III would break out and shared information to his followers. In a clip, Trevor wrote, "Here are 3 dates that something terrible is going to happen. Remember this date: February 21st, 2024, something very big will happen. May 29th, 2030, a 3rd World War will start, lasting 7 years between the North and South. And 2037, the war ends and the second baby boom happens, growing the population too high." And last on our list is that the US is destroyed. A TikTok time traveler posted a video saying, "I'm a real time traveler from the year 2236, and I've come to a date and time to warn you about upcoming events in the next few years," they wrote. They said in 2022, scientists discover a way to bring back the Megalodon shark through using its DNA, and they create a real Megalodon in 2023, and surprisingly nothing goes wrong. In 2025, scientists discover signs of life on 2 different planets, and they're proven to be more advanced than humans, they predicted. A meteor will come down to Earth in 2034, 2034 and will wipe out half of America, they said, and the alleged time traveler suggests that 50% of the US would be destroyed in just 12 years. The self-confessed Time Lord made another forecast for the upcoming decade, as they predicted the Maui dolphin will become extinct. Now this isn't all. The TikToker also claimed that Disney will buy another large film studio, and one of the largest tornadoes will hit North America, causing many casualties. Now, while we don't know if the Meg is back yet, I think this is believable. We'll also just have to wait until 2025 to see if they're right.
Black hole. Edward Morgan from MIT collected X-ray data on a distant black hole, then transmitted it into a sound that is audible to humans. The original of this is about 1,000,000 billion times deeper than anything you could ever hear. The deepest note in the universe, in fact. But with a little bit of tweaking, here is a sound of an actual black hole, and it's terrifying. Coming out number 9, we have the lost cosmonaut. In 1961, two Italian brothers recorded a signal from space which they claimed was from a secret Soviet space mission. It sounded like a female cosmonaut who was in distress while trying to orbit the Earth. Something had apparently gone wrong. She was complaining of feeling hot as she burned up in the atmosphere. Now the Russians announced that an unmanned craft had burned up in the atmosphere and denied they had any knowledge of the lost cosmonaut. At the number 8 spot now, we have Tabby's star. This mysterious star was discovered by amateur astronomers and found to be about 1,400 light years from Earth. The strange thing was, the brightness of it would dip by 22% for days at a time. Some suggested it was a Dyson sphere, a theoretical alien structure that would enclose a whole star to harvest all of its power. For many years it's been just a sci-fi idea, but Tabby's star seemed to fit this theory very well. At the time of recording, scientists are still carrying out further studies. Coming in at number 7 now, we have 234 stars. In 2016, Canadian astronomers found something very strange within the Milky Way. 234 stars that were blinking at exactly the same rate. Eric Trottier, the astronomer who found this, proposed that the signal was just too much of a coincidence. He thought it was of alien origin. He said that the pulsating signals were caused by an alien civilization flashing a laser in our direction, causing a faint but detectable blip in their star's light. The stars could even be 234 different civilizations pulling together to try and contact us. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the sound of Saturn. In 2002, the Cassini spacecraft passed by the gas giant of Saturn. It listened to the planet's aurora caused by its huge magnetic field. The signal was way out of human hearing, so they slowed it right down, they compressed it, and this is what they heard. Alright, moving on to number 5 now, we have the Lorimer burst. This signal was detected in 2007 after astronomers dug through 6 years of previous data. Then they found it. It was a very brief burst of radio emission, just 5 milliseconds in total. The area it came from was 5 to 11 billion light years away from Earth. This means that when the signal left its origin, Earth hadn't even been formed yet, which is mind-blowing. Scientists were shocked to find that whatever made this signal released more energy in that short burst than the sun does in 4 months. Moving on to number 4 now, we have this. It's a very weird name, but it has an incredible story behind it. Scientists detected this signal from an empty area of space with no stars or planet systems near it for about 1,000 light years, from an area between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, and yet a signal came. It was detected as being a short burst at about 1420 megahertz. That's one of the main frequencies at which hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, absorbs and emits energy. Scientists have often thought of using this to contact any aliens out there, and so when we received it, it's drawn a lot of attention. Coming in at number 3 now, we have frequency 4462.3. This signal came from a star only 100 light years from us, and it was a star quite similar to our own. It's called TYC 1220911, and it was nothing out of the ordinary until it did something. The noise it made was just 10 seconds long, but now that it's been adjusted so we can hear it, it's very scary and creepy. Tell me what you think of it. Next up at number 2 we have the cosmic roar. In 2006 a group of California astronomers were trying to detect the very first stars in the universe. Instead they heard a radio wave roar. What they heard was 6 times louder than the faint signal they expected to detect. In fact, this roar was 6 times greater than the combined emission of all known radio wave sources. And this wasn't the sound of the Big Bang, it was the sound of something mysterious from the start of the universe, something more intense than we've ever encountered. And finally now at number 1 we have the wow signal. What else could it be, really? In 1977, Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope detected the strangest signal ever heard from space. It came from the Sagittarius constellation and many scientists thought that it sounded like it could be of extraterrestrial origin. It lasted for 72 seconds and then it was never heard of again. The astronomer who found the signal was so shocked by it that they wrote wow in the margin, giving us its name. Now it's been adjusted like some of the other ones so that we can hear it, and this is what it sounds like.
We have wow. The wow signal of 1977. Over 40 years ago, the Big Ear radio telescope of Ohio State University detected something very strange indeed. An intense radio signal coming from the constellation of Sagittarius, which is about 5,000 light years away, was kicking off. The surprising sound lasted for 72 seconds and then was never heard of again. This is what it sounded like. Astronomer Jerry R. Eman noted the anomaly and simply wrote wow in his notes, which is how it came to be known as the wow signal. Wow. Many scientists agree that it sounded like it could be of extraterrestrial origin. To this day, it remains one of the most convincing pieces of evidence for having experienced alien contact. Now, if aliens were trying to contact us though, it's likely that they would be long dead by now, as the area of space that the signal was coming from actually probably would have taken thousands of years to reach us. Coming in at number 9, we have the Silpho secret. In February 2018, a box containing alien hieroglyphics were found, and they were very similar to those found on the wreckage of the UFO that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The box was part of a recovered wreckage from an unidentified flying object that crashed in Seafoam Moor in Scarborough. The box was part of recovered wreckage from an unidentified flying object that crashed in Seafoam Moor in Scarborough, England. The remains had been housed at London's Science Museum since 1963, 5 years after the crash, which happened around the same time that Sputnik was launched. In 2018, a box containing fragments from the crash was rediscovered, and when a piece of the base was cut open, out came a book made of copper sheets, and they were found to contain strange symbols. A local cafe owner, Philip Longbottom, to me that sounds like a bit of a fake name, but sure, he said that he had translated the symbols and that they were a message from an alien called Ulo. Ulo was warning the human race to improve or disappear. Wah wah wah. Coming in at number 8, we have the Phoenix Lights. Were aliens trying to send a message with a light show? Some people certainly think so. It seems that in March 1997, over 20 years ago, a lot of people from Arizona and Nevada in the United States, as well as thousands of people from Mexico, reported seeing large spherical lights of different colors in the sky. Many say they saw red, orange, yellow, and white lights flying around with no explanation. People believed that they were coming from triangular, unidentified flying objects. Now, I know what you're thinking, this sounds like a hoax, with people jumping on the bandwagon, but aside from there being thousands of reports, it seems that actually many credible sources came forward to say that they themselves had seen the lights. This included the Arizona governor at the time, Fife Symington. On record, he said it was bigger than anything that he has ever seen, and it remains a great mystery. Interestingly, some people reported an amnesia-like state following their exposure to the lights. Some say the flyby light show was a way in which aliens were trying to communicate with them. Coming in at number 7, we have the roar. It has been 13 years since space roared right at us. Blimey. So the story goes that in 2006, while the rest of us were listening to British indie and watching the World Cup and mourning the death of Steve Irwin, a group of California astronomers heard something very, very loud. Like, seriously, really, really, really loud. The Californian team were attempting to detect the very first stars in the universe, but instead of recording ancient cosmic light, they heard an almighty radio wave roar. In fact, this roar was 6 times greater than the combined emission of all known radio sources ever made, so, well, that's some space lion. While this wasn't the sound of the Big Bang, it was the sound of something mysterious from the early beginnings of the universe. Was it a message from our creators? We don't know. Next up we have the impossible fossil, the Coso artifact. The Coso or Coso artifact was a piece of 500,000-year-old geode discovered by Mike Mickelson in Death Valley, California in 1961. Strangely enough, inside the geode, instead of a hollow cavity, there was a piece of porcelain and a magnetic shaft of metal. The outer layer of the geode was allegedly encrusted with fossil shells and fossil fragments dating back 500,000 years. This led to shock from the geological world. This kind of fossil was impossible, there shouldn't be anything close to man-made in the geode, and this led to a lot of people believing that the artifact was evidence of an ancient civilization or a secret message left on Earth by aliens waiting to be discovered. In the end though, it seems that actually the item encased was a spark plug, which many saw as evidence of time travel, although most credible geologists now think the plug ended up in a rock via concretion, although I still think this is really weird. Coming in at number 5 we have the Wilshire Wonder. In August 2017, video footage emerged of a crop circle forming under a ball of light in a Wilshire field. Wilshire is in the west of England, and that has been home to many crop circle mysteries. A lot of people believe crop circles to be signs made by aliens. I mean, has anyone seen the 2002 movie Signs? Basically what was happening in Wilshire was like a real scene out of the movie. Have a look at this footage shot over a crop circle.
Can you see those? If those are UFOs. Oh man.
I have to admit that is really weird. Here's a closer look inside of the crop circle.
It's another center part.
And here is the circle from above. Are the lights an elaborate part of the hoax, or are these real alien signals? Coming into number 4 we have the SETI signal. In 2016 it was widely speculated that SETI may have heard from an alien civilization. Russian astronomers detected a signal from a star just 94 light years away from Earth, a star a lot like our own. Neighbours? Friends? Signals from star HD 164595 were picked up, and people were really excited as the signal came from within our own galaxy, the Milky Way. It's now speculated though that the signal had come from a Russian satellite. Buzzkill. Had the signal come from another sun, it could have indicated a Type 2 civilization. We're a Type 1 civilization, we've found the way to use technology to harness the power of the sun, but a Type 2 civilization is like directly using the sun, which is pretty exciting. Coming in at number 3 we have the ancient travelers of Salamanca. The Cathedral of Salamanca was built between 1513 and 1733 in Spain, so long before humans had set their sights on space travel. So why then does the cathedral contain what is clearly an image of an astronaut in a space jacket? He's wearing a helmet and space boots and everything. Many people think that this is evidence that an alien society existed before ours. In actuality, it isn't a secret message at all. The cathedral was restored in the 1990s, and the stone carving of the astronaut was a later addition, perhaps a joke from an architect. It does continue to vex passers-by though. Coming into number 2 we have the fast radio bursts. For the past few years, scientists have been picking up strange signals from a distant galaxy as part of Breakthrough Listen. The Breakthrough Listen project set out to scan space for alien life or messages, and well, they may have done just that. The bursts were first detected in 2015, and since then they have been heard around 24 times. The very short bursts sound a bit like ambulance sirens. A researcher at Breakthrough Listen, Danny Price, said, "There are lots of theories out there." He continued by saying, "There are some theories that they are from extraterrestrials." What? Other theories are that they actually could be the sounds of a big deep space event, like the sound of a star exploding, or perhaps the sound of a black hole, something along those lines. Right now, Breakthrough Listen are trying to figure out what they may mean and pinpoint where exactly they're coming from. Coming into number 1, we have Oumuamua. Oumuamua was first spotted from Hawaii in October 2018 and has since been heavily observed since. It's an interstellar alien comet that entered our solar system from a solar system beyond our very own, which is the first time that we have actually ever observed something truly alien close to home. The name it was given, Oumuamua, means messenger from afar. Some people think that the unusually shaped comet is actually an alien spaceship. They believe it's coming to deliver a secret message, or perhaps just checking out our hood. The reason people think it is a spaceship is because of its weird shape. It appears to be almost 10 times as long as it is wide. Rough calculations suggest it measures 100 feet by 100 feet by 600 feet, and that it spins on its axis every 7.5 hours. Now, we could only observe it as it flew by, but really, we have no idea what it is.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's about secret knowledge that the real-life men in black don't want you to know about. Click the video now to find out more about this topic.